Welcome to the CCEE Distance Learning Consortium. My name is Jennifer Gately, and I will be your facilitator for today's series from San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools. Today, we will be looking at Hot Topic Session Number 8, Implementing Best Practices for Family Engagement in Distance Learning. As we explore the topic of family engagement in distance learning, we will continue to look at the why, the what, and the how of supporting families in this journey of distance learning. Today's session topics include parent partnerships in distance learning, role models for success in distance learning, and truly leveraging family engagement strategies to be a support in distance learning. But before we begin, let's start with a quote. Parents are the ultimate role models for children. Every word, movement, and action has an effect. No other person or outside force has a greater influence on a child than the parent. So now, during distance learning, as we strive to develop family partnerships, the first step begins with recognizing that family engagement is much more than just family involvement. It truly is a partnership that we do together for all children and all families. So let's take this a little further. Family engagement is a process. It does not happen in one day. It often does not happen in 10 days. It does take time. But during that process, we focus to develop genuine relationships, not only with students, but with the families that are now supporting them in their learning efforts at home. Relationships with those families do support the overall well-being and the health and development, not only of the child, but of the entire family unit that's working together during distance learning. We do know that when families are engaged, partnerships are created, not so much around learning, but more around the genuine intent and desire to see every child grow in their development as a human being, which includes learning, but it also includes those skills and those strengths and those treasures that make every child unique and therefore support every family in distance learning as they work together in this process. So the question becomes, how do we leverage best practices for family engagement in distance learning when all families are different? So let's dive a little bit deeper into a few strategies that can support us in those efforts. Number one, strengthening relationships with families. Again, we know that as we're working with distance learning and we're trying to support our students, that the effort to develop relationships with students often begins with the families that are supporting them in the home as well. But the same strategies are the same with students as they are with adults, that we try to be authentic, to truly engage with families, not just to involve them, but to give them insight into the experience of distance learning together with their child. That we're responsive, that we communicate often, we develop opportunities to connect with families in a time that's manageable for them, in a way that is supportive to them, and oftentimes in a language that is accessible to them. And finally, that we are relational, that we take the time, that we make the effort to discover not only what makes each child unique and special in this school year together with us, but what makes each family unique and special as well. And we develop the relationships in distance learning that supports the families and the students this school year. Number two, that we make efforts to build capacity with the families that are engaging with us in the distance learning partnership. That we recognize that in this new era, flexibility is now the new normal. Many families are experiencing changes. They're experiencing challenges that are very difficult for the family and therefore difficult for the students as well. So as we work together with those families and we put out expectations and assignments and assessments and resources, everything for distance learning, that we recognize that different families have different needs. And so we work with those families to develop a sense of flexibility so that they can engage together in distance learning to the greatest extent possible. That we also recognize that collaboration is key, that as students are engaging in distance learning at home with their families, there is no way that we cannot do this together. That it is a process that we should be doing together with the families, not to the families. And so this first and foremost involves very clear, very open, and very transparent communication. And so again, finding the time to not only teach students, but to talk with students about what does their family structure look like? What does their distance learning environment work for them? How does it not work for them? And how can we work together as teachers and families to improve distance learning for all students in the home? And finally, that we recognize opportunities to provide support for all students, all siblings, all family members as well, recognizing that just like different students may need different strategies in distance learning, likewise, different parents may need different support with resources, skills, and strategies as well. So what are we doing to meet each family where they're at so that in turn, they can support each student where they're at in distance learning? Finally, that we work together to support families in their focus on learning. And when we look at that focus on learning, again, returning to the idea of making sure that the distance learning experience is manageable for all families and it is meaningful as well. So as we work with those families and students, that as teachers, we focus on being realistic in what we're asking families to do, not asking families to replace classroom instruction, not asking families to replace the teacher, but instead to join together with us and partner with us on strategies and skills that support all students in distance learning, but being realistic in what falls to the role of the teacher, what falls to the role of the student, and where is a meaningful place where the family can support in that as well. That we also focus on being a role model in teaching, but in a sense of well-being as well, recognizing back to the conversation about mindsets that there is power in positivity and power in perseverance as well. And that there are those days when the challenge of distance learning is just flat out challenging. And we recognize that and we work together to address what needs to be addressed today and hope for a new day the next day, but that we model opportunities to be positive and to engage together as a team in distance learning so that all students receive the support that they need that day and in future days as well. And finally, that we strive to work with our families to truly maintain a lens of equity. That when we look at our instructional practices for students, that it's not just about teaching, but it's also about responding as well. And now that students are engaging in distance learning in their families, making sure that those opportunities fit the family as well, so that we don't just have flexibility, we don't just have fidelity of what instruction is, but there is that fit for the family as well, which often comes through maintaining a culturally responsive approach so that the teaching and the learning that's happening in the home fits the home. So in summary, family engagement is one of the single most important factors in helping students to succeed, and leveraging our parents as a true partner in that endeavor is our most important imperative. Parents, families, and other caring adults provide the primary educational environment for children early in life and can reinforce classroom learning throughout the school years. We know this year that our students are going to move from distance learning hopefully back to classroom learning and quite possibly back to distance learning again. But together in providing consistent partnership and clear communication, we can make sure that whatever transitions lie ahead support not only the students, but the families in their journey this year in distance learning. So as you continue the conversation about exploring the best practices for families as they engage together with us in distance learning, I invite you to explore some of the activities below, perhaps leveraging opportunities where families already feel comfortable engaging with teachers and staff in the school environment, that they would now do so in the virtual environment, perhaps through back to school nights and open house, that you make a plan to schedule check-in meetings with parents to truly learn where that family is at in being able to support distance learning and what they can do to support the student and the family in their next steps this year. And continuing conversations about how can we do more than just involve families in this process, but we can truly work together to engage families in distance learning this year. So this brings session 8 of our series to a close as we explore implementing best practices for family engagement in distance learning. We invite you to join us on our very last session in the Distance Learning and Family Engagement series as we begin session 9, Family Engagement in Distance Learning. And we take the time to look at some examples of family engagement in some of our schools and districts and how that can support distance learning in our home this year. Thank you.